Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me today on Conscious Conversations. I'm Lauren Douglas. I'm joined by Ruben Hanohano, a special guest, my first time ever interviewing a Channel Factory employee, and we're going to talk about all things Pride. So thanks so much for joining me, Ruben. Ruben, can I have you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Ruben Hanohano. My pronouns are they, them, and I am the Training and Development Manager here at Channel Factory, which basically means I'm a part of the HR team that gets to welcome folks into our lovely company on their very first day.
Amazing. Ruben, I want to talk to you a little bit about, first of all, some of the work that you've done inside the company. I know you've set up and created an LGBTQ plus committee, and you have made some real changes and improvements inside and outside the company. So first of all, tell me a little bit about that work you've done, and tell me some of the impact that it's had.
Yes, awesome. So the LGBTQ plus committee here at Channel Factory was really started in tandem with my lovely cohort, Hazel, who is on our London team. And
Okay.
we really wanted to band together as LGBTQ plus folks to build a more safe and supportive space at Channel Factory and beyond for the LGBTQ plus community and the committee of folks that join our team. And
Okay.
the reason why we banded together was because we have both worked at different organizations in the past where we didn't feel affirmed as an LGBTQ plus person, didn't feel really supported in that way, and we didn't want people who started here at Channel Factory or people who had been here at Channel Factory to feel that way.
Yeah.
So we wanted to really change policies, like you mentioned, and also create an educational space for our allies at the company. We host a rainbow lunch every quarter where we get to talk about a topic, really dissect it with our allies here, our team members, and really discuss what it means and how that affects us. So we've talked about LGBT representation in the media. We've
Okay.
talked about mental health. We've talked about AIDS and HIV. And so, really difficult and also really rewarding conversations to have with the folks that we work with so they can be aware and
Yeah.
can know sort of what we go through.
Absolutely. And I think one of the key things that the committee has also done is taken a look at some of our policies, the way we use language, how we speak about gender, and even in our handbook, looking at our handbook
hmm
book to make sure that it's not gendered. Talk to me a little bit about what some of the policies and changes you've implemented.
Yes, thank you for asking that question. I think that in the past, I've definitely had areas where I felt like I couldn't express myself before I worked at Channel Factory, just with the way that I dress or the way that I present myself, my nails, my hair, all of that stuff.
Which your nails
Uh,
look
be
great, by the way.
Thank you so much. Um, but all of the language around what people can and cannot wear are typically very gendered. Men wear this, women wear this, but as a non-binary person, there really wasn't a place where I could understand what was expected of me even, and that ambiguity around that is can be a really uncomfortable place to be. And so something we wanted to do was to change that language in our handbook, making it more inclusive, more gender neutral in a way that can define some of these things. Because I find that no one likes uncertainty, and the only way to fight uncertainty is to have those details and to present
Yeah.
that details in a way that people can understand and see.
Absolutely. Are you looking at policies sort of outside the company walls too, and sort of looking at how we're using certain techniques for targeting or for advertising that could potentially negatively impact the community as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think that you can't go on the internet without finding an area where people have done it wrong. Articles about people who have done it wrong, but also just being in this space and seeing it for yourself and knowing this does not make a lot of sense. Um, Especially when we talk about advertising and we talk about pride and we talk about areas that maybe aren't as supportive, we know that there are YouTube creators who create this beautiful content who identifies LGBTQ plus, and their channels aren't monetized because
And why is
a,
that?
truthfully, a lot of the ways in which we in the past in our industry have really looked at content. We label everything that's to do with homosexuality or anything on the spectrum of LGBTQ plus. We label it as like sexual or profane.
Uh-huh.
So that automatically blocks some of the terminology that LGBTQ plus people use on the daily when just
Totally.
talking
About
about
their
any
lives. Right.
topic about their life. And
Right.
when a lot of that stuff is demonetized, it means that those creators aren't getting paid, even though, they have hundreds of thousands of views on their content. So
Mm-hmm.
really, even looking at that and seeing that and saying, there are different ways that we can look at content and grade them, knowing that there are inclusive terms that we can include in our inclusion lists
Mm-hmm.
in order to really capture those audiences and those creators.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to that point, like the words that were appearing on block lists, I know you took a look at that and said, we probably shouldn't have the word lesbian or
Right,
bi on our block list, right? And by the way, advertisers, you shouldn't either.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that it comes from really this idea of someone coming to us during Pride, for example, and saying that we want to reach the gays, like what does that mean to you? What is the content you actually want to follow? What are the lifestyle choices that you want to include in your targeting list in order for us to make sure that we're reaching people? LGBTQ plus isn't a demographic in my
Or a
mind.
monolith, right?
Or a monolith, right. It's so inclusive of so many different types of identities that
Sure.
we need to ask those questions. We need to look at block lists. We need to identify areas maybe that we have been biased in the past and undo some of those biases for us in order to make sure that one, we are supporting those LGBTQ plus content creators and also helping brands who genuinely want to reach that LGBTQ plus audience that want to, share different types of support, which can be done definitely through advertising in certain ways.
It's funny talking about like inherent bias that like I think sometimes even the most progressive people have biases. I was on a call the other day talking about the decision that is most likely to come regarding Roe v. Wade and what can we do. It was a women's group, and people kept saying, "Oh, well, can the should we talk to the LGBTQ community? Do they want to be involved in this?" And I'm like, these are not two separate communities. Like the fact that you're even separating them as two different communities is an inherent in itself a problem, right? Like it doesn't
Right.
need to be separate. Um, there can be much more, cross communication and work together. And by the way, many women are also in the LGBTQ community. So like, what are we
Yes.
talking about here?
Yes. I mean, LGBTQ plus rights are human rights.
That's right.
Women's rights are human rights. Like all of
Right.
those things are
Right.
things that are so encompassing for so many people that, we don't have to think of them as separate. We don't have to think
Totally.
of people in buckets because although
Right.
we like to categorize people, the human complexity is far greater than any box you're going to put anyone in.
And as advertisers, I think sometimes it's hard because you do have demographic targets that you have to reach, and you have
Hmm.
campaigns, and you have, the brand wants to hit this certain persona from 25 to 54, females, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's hard to be diverse and inclusive and reach every single person, right? And so like there's
Yes.
kind of a tension point there that sometimes I think we have to remind people like, whoa, these are not like everybody doesn't neatly fit into one box or another.
Right. And I think
So,
that's where being contextually aligned makes so much more sense. Like, I understand that brands have always used demographic information, but I think that, especially on a place like YouTube, where content is king, really looking at what is the type of content you want to be on, more so than just like these boxes that you want to put people in. What are the types of positioning, attitudes, flavors that you want people to leave
yeah,
when they see your ad?
yeah, absolutely. I always give the example of like I've looked at like hairstyles on Pinterest. It's such an easy place. They could target me with an ad about hair tools or products I could use, but I always inevitably get something like freeze your eggs. And it's like, well, it's not quite. what I was in the
Not
mindset I
quite what
was
I'm
in.
looking for
Right,
here. Yeah.
exactly. So
And I
just to
think
prove out
like
that point of contextual.
I think that goes back to some of the like jokes that we talk about in the space.
Yes. Oh my God, Pride. So it's Pride Month. Happy Pride.
Yes.
Um, so,
Happy
so
Pride.
Happy Pride. So some of those, like, yeah, some of the Pride advertising can be really cringy.
Cringe is a good way to put it, yes. I think like there's that video, I think her name is Meg Stalter. She made
Uh-huh.
it like last year, right around Pride, where it was making fun of different brands that try to reach people during Pride, and it just starts with like, "Hi, gay."
Hi,
Um,
gay.
Hi, gay. Happy Pride Month. We are sashaying away with deals.
just to like put you in this like silly little box. And I think that we see that all the time with that like you mentioned on Pinterest, where it's just like we've identified that you're a woman, so here's a woman ad. Like it's
Right.
so it doesn't align with what we're actually doing. And I think that that's
Totally.
where contextual targeting really plays a major part in what we do at Channel Factory to help brands
Yeah.
reach the right audience at the right time.
Okay, controversial question. Is contextual targeting the most diverse type of targeting?
Ooh, that is a controversial question. I think that I think that for what targeting is today, yes, absolutely. What's targeting going to look like in 5 years? I'll never know. It'll always change, but today I would say yes. The way to reach diverse audiences, the way to really make sure that you're reaching the type of person you want to reach is through content and through contextual and letting
Totally.
go of any ideas of like this is just this is their gender or this
Yeah.
is like their age group
This is
because
the type
we're
of content women watch, or yeah,
right.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I love it. That's a very, I mean, I think that's a good statement to make. So brands, if you're paying attention. Um, okay, I have one last question for you, which is your favorite Pride advertisement and your least impactful that you've seen, given that it's Pride Month and we're about to start seeing all the companies come out with all of their rainbow, colored flags and rainbow colored logos, et cetera. So best
Yes.
Pride advertising you've seen, worst Pride advertising you've seen.
The best Pride advertising for me is something that is really supportive of the community and really takes the time and the legwork to sort of go above and beyond just changing a logo during the month of June. I can think of like Miller Coors, especially, where locally in Chicago, like when I'm at Pride, Miller Coors is there. Like you'll see their support on different stages that we have for performers in Chicago. So that localized advertising, I think, is a great way to really show that support. Yes, they're doing national pushes on YouTube, but also like really going into the communities and making an impact, I think, is a really great and beautiful example of
Yeah,
advertising. And
I
I
love that.
think the not so great ones are definitely the surface level ones. I have even seen some brands that will make like an LGBTQ plus quote unquote ad, but no one who produced the ad, no one who was in the ad, no one who like was in the room where it happened with that ad was LGBTQ plus. So it's sort
Yeah.
of like that fakeness of
Yeah.
this is what I think they want to see.
Yes.
That's when it's done poorly.
It just seems inauthentic and you can tell. So I
Exactly.
guess your advice would be make sure that you're creating content and ads. If you're gonna do LGBTQ and Pride Month focused stuff, make sure that you're including the people of the community so that you have that authentic voice.
Always. I think, especially when it comes to pride and especially when we talk about LGBTQ plus identities, authenticity is something that we're always searching for in ourselves. Like that's why we
Yeah.
choose to celebrate pride. That is why we express ourselves in this way. So if you know that authenticity is something we care about, don't fake it when you're
Yeah.
doing ads. You
Yeah,
got to make it
absolutely.
authentic too.
Totally, totally. Well, thank you so much, Ruben. I really appreciate it. I am so happy I got a chance to talk to you about Pride and advertising and all things kind of for the month of June and to celebrate you. So thank you for joining me.
Yay! Thank you for making this space. I'm so happy. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thanks to all of you for joining me too. Happy Pride.